Once there was a woman who every winter would gain weight, start feeling guilty, was depressed, didn't like anybody, didn't like herself, was irritable, would gain weight, would start eating more and more starchy foods, sleep more, do only bare minimum. And then sometime after April or May, she'd start coming back to herself, feeling strong, vital, being more social, getting out, exercising, feeling joyful. And after a few years of this, she started questioning, was she bipolar? What was wrong with her? She actually started telling people that to expect by January or February, she'd be the walking dead. Well, you guessed it. That woman is me, and about 500,000 other people in this country who have seasonal affective disorder in a very severe way, and another 10 to 20% of the population who have mild to moderate SAD. Well, stay tuned, because today we're going to turn sad into glad as we journey through what it's like for so many people in the United States and all around the world as the winter months hit and their personality changes and life just isn't as good for them. Hi, I'm Dr. Guldal, and I welcome you to Are You Awake? As we awaken our consciousness today to our own behaviors, our own experiences, and once again take the shame and blame away as we incorporate more information and understand our bodies better, our bodies in relation to the environment, our friends, and what's happening around us. The greatest thing that we can give ourselves, the greatest gift, is this awakening of consciousness, this understanding of who we are, how we operate, from a more objective place. The human being, each and every one of us, our first default is to blame ourselves when things don't go correctly, or if we feel poorly, if we respond to life a certain kind of way. We wrap ourselves into shame and blame, and when we do that, we become more unconscious. We roll into ourselves and all the things that were wrong, all the old wounds. We look through the world from a lens of something's wrong with me, and that usually stops us from truly understanding what's happening. And that's when we're asleep. When we react from those places, we're walking around asleep. And this show is all about waking up and awakening. And good morning. I'm sitting here with you once again in the wee hours, sipping my latte, thinking about this process of seasonal affective disorder and how it affects so many people. Working in the office for so many years and working with people, I see it. I see it immediately starting the month of October. There's just a difference in so many of the people I work with, people that already struggle with depression and anxiety. It's worse. Their symptoms are escalating and aggravated, and often they look at me and they don't know why. And it's funny because some of these people I've worked with for years, and my response to them is, what month is this? It's usually October or November. Seasonal affective disorder hits us, and we don't even realize it because it's our day-to-day. The lack of sunlight that happens in so many areas more north of the equator, and the more north we go, the more people are affected, can really affect people in such a severe way that some people become suicidal. Dr. Norman Rosenthal in 1984 coined the term seasonal affective disorder. He had been working with a woman who was very vital and strong and had some symptoms that he doesn't really mention. But one year in about the month of February, she tried to commit suicide. And when he was talking to her about it and asking her what happened, she started talking about every year she would feel very poorly. And he remembered that. He remembered that December and January were more difficult months for her. And he said, what was different this year? And her response to him was, we didn't go to Florida. This year our family didn't take the vacation and I couldn't hold on anymore. The answer is sunlight. It's fascinating, but for so many people, that's the answer. I think we'd all agree that we like the sunny days better. And not everybody's affected. Of course, we have people, so many people that just love winter and are outside during the winter months, skiing, snowboarding, doing all those wonderful things. And that's wonderful. And there's an entire group of people that actually have summer seasonal affective disorder, and their symptoms are a little bit different. But if anybody has the symptoms of gaining weight, feeling heavy, lower energy levels, fatigue, wanting to oversleep, difficulty concentrating, irritability, more sensitive to what people say to you, avoidance of going out, well, that's who I was, and that's who so many people are. Interesting. We know about seasonal affective disorder. We know that the winter months are harder, especially if you're in an area with daylight savings, when it's dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock this time of year, December, January. And yet, so many of us don't do anything about it unless it gets really severe. People I work with over the years that have depression and their depression gets worse over the winter, I always have to remind them, I have to remind myself, those people that have mild seasonal affective disorder that just don't have as good a life for 3 or 4 months every year, we don't have to do that. Quality of life is so important. There are a lot of things that we can do. Simple things. It doesn't always have to be medication, although for some that is the answer. And if you're already on medication, then sometimes your physician will increase the dose during the winter months. But the trick is to look. Are you dragging? Are you the Walking Dead by the time January rolls around? If you are, then let's take a step back, or if you know somebody that is, let's take a step back and let's find some of the treatments that we can do that are simple, easy, effective, and actually kind of fun. For most people, light therapy is the answer. It's my favorite thing. I have this big light box I've had forever and ever. Can't live without it. And still, some years I forget to turn that baby on until, right about now, end of November, first part of December. And again, that's true for so many. So what is light therapy? Light therapy is a box that holds a light bulb, a very bright light. It's 10,000 lux, Lux. I'm going to recommend everybody who drags even a tiny bit look into getting a light therapy box. Sitting in front of it 20, 30 minutes a day, usually early in the day, can trick your brain into thinking you're out in the sun. It's a funny thing. Think about it. If you hold this light therapy off to the side or up a little bit, this box, you don't look directly into it, and the pupils think, wow, I'm in the sunlight. Sends a message to the brain starts making serotonin, because typically seasonal affective disorder is lack of serotonin, one of the mood chemicals in the brain that when in balance, we feel better. Okay, that's quite the trick. And I'll tell you a couple of the tricks that you're not going to find on Google or WebMD, something that I've discovered along the way and have actually found little tiny pieces of research over the years while I was digging for my own self. People with seasonal affective disorder like the way the light feels. If you know anybody that doesn't have SAD, doesn't have SAD, they walk into a room and the light is on, they are offended by the light. It hurts their eyes. Instant diagnosis. You'll know instantly. But here's another trick. How many of you use sunglasses in the summer? Like where you have to put the glasses on every day and you find that you use them even, towards fall. You can't go outside without them. If you're that person, you don't have seasonal affective disorder. The rest of you who buy the sunglasses because they're cool and they look good, but only put them on sometimes and would rather walk around with your face in the sun, you probably have some form of seasonal affective disorder. We store it up. Those of us that struggle in the winter with SAD, we tend to store up the sunlight in those months when the sun is available. We don't like to put the sunglasses on. If you're that person, then you're instantly going to know after you listen to this podcast today that you have some form of seasonal affective disorder. There you go, the simplest diagnosis anybody's ever going to give you, but yet so important. Our quality of life, having some joy and wanting to be around people, because being around people nourishes us. I had a woman in my office just last week, just sitting there saying, I don't know why I'm so sad, crying, looking at the news over and over again. And again, I just looked at her and I said, it's November. When was the last time you remember feeling good? And all the good memories were mostly in the summer. And this is somebody who struggles with this year after year. And for some reason, we don't remember. It's this walking around asleep thing. We just roll into it. But it's also the way the brain is wired with serotonin and depression. We just kind of fall into this lull. All of a sudden, we're tired. We start questioning, why am I tired? What's wrong? What's going on? And, there's always 1,000 reasons why we're tired. And seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, or the symptoms of SAD, don't only affect people in the winter months, Those people that work without sunlight, that work in factories or offices without windows, they struggle a lot too. If we could just get outside and be in the sun. Now, not everybody can, get a vacation into a sunny spot. And if you can't do that, then there are some things that are going to be important for you to do. And light therapy is the quickest and best and my favorite, because you can do it at home, eating breakfast, drinking coffee, reading the paper, 20, 30 minutes in the morning. Now, a disclaimer and a qualifier: if you're on medication and you do light therapy, it can throw you into a mania, so you do need to check with your doctor. And those of you like me who might just love the box and leave it on a little bit too long, you can get super energized, and it can cause insomnia and give you a little hyperactivity, a little bit of a manic experience. So you have to monitor and check in with yourself. What does it feel like? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes? They even have these light therapies now in a visor. You can walk around your house with a visor. It's a simple thing. And what are some of the other things you want to check? You want to check vitamin D levels. We get vitamin D from the sun when our skin experiences sunlight. There's been a huge, huge, huge epidemic of low vitamin D levels, mostly because everyone's using sunscreen and we're afraid of the sun, and our sun isn't actually being exposed. We're not allowing the sun to be touching our skin directly. So we want to check vitamin D levels. Although it doesn't give serotonin directly to the brain through light, it still affects our mood, along with so many other issues. Vitamin D is very, very important. We need about 40 to 60 nanograms per milliliter of vitamin D. And some people are saying 50 to 70. And the many, many people that I work with, their vitamin D levels are below 20. They're at 15, 17, 18. This causes all kinds of symptoms of depression, fatigue, listlessness, adrenal fatigue, lack of concentration, difficulty moving, heaviness in arms. All of these things are also related to vitamin D levels. So you want to check that. You want to make sure your vitamin D is up. So have your doctor check your vitamin D levels. Supplementing with vitamin D3 is very helpful, especially if you add a vitamin K. 5,000 to 8,000 IUs of vitamin D every day makes a huge difference. Or if there's a little bit of sun, run outside. Sit by the window. Look into the sun. Be out in your car. People with dogs who walk their dogs actually do better, even in the dry, dreary, gray winter months. They get a little bit of that light when they're walking their dogs every day. So if you have a dog, get out there, walk your dog. If not, find a way to sit outside. What else can we do? Essential oils. They're amazing. Now, not just because I deal with essential oils, and this would be the typical time I would pitch my product, but I'm not even going to do that because the website's down. We're remodeling it. And besides, I'm not here to sell product. I'm here to be of service. Just as a side note, every time I'm going to do a podcast or a lecture or do a workshop somewhere, whatever it is that I do, I set my intention first and foremost to create the highest good in what I can offer for as many people that are willing to listen. I set the intention for who's going to be listening to find what they need when they spend time with me, and that means those of you that are with me today. I set that intention in my body and my vibration to share what I know, to share what comes through me, to make a difference. It's again 4:00 in the morning and I'm here because that's what I do. It's the only reason I think I've been put here. And it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. And I know that today's podcast is a little different. It's more informative. But, this is a subject after my own heart. I struggled with this for years. I thought I was crazy. And it turns out I just needed some sun. Like, how silly is that at the end of the day? And sitting in front of a light box for 20 minutes can change a person's life. And if I have that piece of information and it's all out there everywhere on Google, but yet people are unaware, so many of you are walking around not having the best joy that you can have, not being as awake and clear-headed and understanding of self, and maybe walking around in that shame and blame cycle, gaining 10, 15 pounds and being mad at yourself and picking starchy foods, and maybe they're not best for you, and maybe you have a gluten intolerance, but you're eating that stuff anyway, and you think something's wrong with you. Well, you're picking those foods because as soon as you eat them, you get a little bit of energy. You get that insulin spike, get a little dopamine rush that lasts a little bit of time. You feel comforted. We all do it. We've all done it. We all know the story. So if today's podcast can make a tiny bit of difference, and you can go out and grab a light box and find some sun and get off your back and have a better day, then this is an amazing thing for me. And to top it off, something as simple as essential oils, the beautiful aroma that comes from plants, the olfactory system, smelling something immediately sends messages to our limbic system, our brain, our emotional body. There's anecdotal evidence we have from the beginning of time in indigenous medicine. We use plants. Medicine people from the old days, and who I strive to be, we use plants. We know that the smell of plants and the oil of the plant on our skin into our bloodstream can make a difference. And there are some studies out there now, in Great Britain and different places. And interestingly, most of the studies on essential oils have been done with people that are very ill, in hospice, etc. And those studies are showing that some lavender and bergamot massaged into hospice patients' hands every day lowered their perception of pain, their perception of sadness. Looking at lavender with rats and changing their limbic system and increasing their mood, balancing heart rate, correcting digestion. These are, more and more research is happening. But let's just go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning when medicine people used plants. Lavender, clary, sage, ling-ling, citrus, all citrus blends increase mood. Sandalwood, frankincense. Frankincense is an essential oil that's had the most research. More and more the research is pointing to frankincense helping prevention in cancer, treatment of cancer. That's powerful. And as a side note, isn't it fascinating that the FDA is cracking down on essential oil companies, saying that they're making medical claims when the medical claims they're making is from the research from the medical community? It's all pretty interesting, this world that we live in. But that's a whole political side note I don't really want to get into, because then I'll get on a soapbox and we'll have to go on and on about, we have to have the right to our own health care and advocacy, and we do. We get to choose. And that's what this is about. We get to choose to be awake. We get to choose to make choices so that we can have a better quality of life. So once again, clary sage, citrus blends, frankincense, sandalwood, ling-lang. Put it into a diffuser. How do you use it? Smell it. Put it on a light bulb. When you turn the light bulb on, the heat diffuses the scent and you can smell it. Put it on your pillow. Excuse me. Put it into a bath. It's simple. These are such simple things. And 2 simple things, adding some essential oils and adding a light box, could change your life. And if any of you out there are struggling with suicidal thoughts and darkness just grabbing you and enveloping you, it doesn't have to be this way. Try to remember a time when it wasn't. There's been so many emergencies, in my world and personal client population that I work with. And it happens this time of year. This is also the time of year where more and more people get sick, not just colds and flus. There's something about this transition. We need to honor that. When we honor ourselves in the world that we live in, this transition to darkness, this solstice, it's an important time. And if we have a body, a circadian rhythm that gets dark with the darkness, we can do something about it. The greatest gift I ever gave myself was that light box. Just the gaining and the losing weight every year was just a little nuts. And it affects women more than men. And it can affect children and teenagers, but onset is usually after the age of 20. And you can go years without ever having this experience, and then all of a sudden you'll notice 2 years in a row, You just don't feel well in the winter. Now, all other things aside that we've talked about before, world crises and those sort of things that affect us, if we just separate those variables just for a moment and just talk about less light and just, narrow it down to that and just take a look at ourselves, we can make all the difference. 1 week in front of a light therapy box, you can get your mojo back. You can go from sad to glad. A little bit of essential oils on your skin. If you have an allergic reaction, some people are allergic to plants. There could be some drug interactions. If you notice an allergic reaction, stop, back off, choose one of the other ones. It's very simple. Get your vitamin D levels up. And most importantly, just take a moment to be awake. At the end of the day, if we don't honor ourselves with awakening our consciousness and getting off our back and letting go of the shame and blame cycle and just taking a look at what's what, it can change everything. I thank you for listening to me today, and as I share my story and the story of so many people struggling, remember the numbers are huge. If it's not you, a family member, a friend, if your friend all of a sudden isn't calling you back, maybe she's just a little sad. Go over there with an essential oil, hang out, whatever it takes. Understanding and compassion for self and others, that's the key. So if you struggle with some sad, do whatever you can to find the glad within you. Get off your own back. And know that if you stay awake and you open your crown and your heart, you just take a step in the right direction to do what you can for you, it can change everything. It's a complete and total paradigm shift. So, as you awaken today, ask yourself how you're feeling. What do you need? And join me in a relaxation exercise as we wrap up today. I thank you as always for listening. I appreciate you very much. So again, close your eyes and not if you're driving. And just take a deep breath. And as soon as you take that deep breath, what is the first scent that comes into mind? Is it a flower? Is it citrus? Is it food? Sometimes, an apple pie baking, or for me it would be Turkish food cooking, some kind of smell that brings us joy and comfort. What's the first smell? The first smell that brings you joy, what is it? Is it jasmine? My grandmother used to take fresh jasmine and put it into her bra, and she smelled like fresh jasmine all the time. Did you know that jasmine awakens the libido, increases contractions, and clears the brain? What's the first scent that brings you joy? Take that deep breath again and honor the joy of being one with the earth, with the planet. As medicine people from the beginning of time, honoring that oneness is a way to have wholeness. So as you take that scent, take that deep breath again, fill your entire body with the oneness of that aroma, and feel that light from inside of you. Join that scent in your brain, in your heart. And where are you now? Are you on the beach? Or in your backyard? Are you somewhere in memory where that smell and that light existed and you were playing hopscotch or jump rope or soccer out in the street? Were you laying by a pool? Take all those memories and bring them back to life. Because we can choose which cells we awaken. We can choose which neurotransmitter pathways to put into play. And this is you choosing today. This is us choosing today. And just roll with it. Be in that space. Let it fill your brain, your heart, your entire body, especially your stomach. I can see you smiling. Just smile. Don't think about anything else that has to happen today. Just be where you are. Awaken those cells, awaken those molecules. Be in the light that's inside of you. Find a few moments of light. Be in the smell of the food and the nature and the planet of wherever it is you are. If it's a pool, smell the chlorine. If it's the beach, smell the seawater, the salt water. Or in your grandmother's kitchen or your mother's kitchen. Wherever you are, take it all in and send it outward as it hits every receptor on your skin, the largest organ of your body. That moves outward. You just feel the joy, feel the smile. For a moment, sad turns to glad. And you can keep that. Just take a deep breath in. I thank you for listening today. Walk sacred.